Greetings and salutations, good people. I am Nashan, and I'm here with my boy Higher Thought, and you are watching Lessons in Deeper Wisdom. Welcome, welcome.
Yes. I love our audience. They are so generous.
You know what? You just like controlling people and control being in control of their enjoyment. But no, that's cool. I wanted to talk today about something kind of different. There was a ancient African myth that I heard, and the more modern one is about Kang. But so today we're going to talk about basically the Ku and the Ka. And I know that sounds a little weird, okay, but stick with me.
The Ku and the Ka.
The Ku and the Ka. Okay, so in this myth, there was the Ku who were the people. They were the first peoples, and they had all these wants and needs, and they had no way of expressing them, but they became desperate in their wants and needs, and so the Ku began to vibrate out into the universe seeking help. So the Ku vibrated out, and in so vibrating, they created in the universe the Ka, which was the answer, or by our modern definitions, it would be called the gods. So the universe answered their vibration by creating the Ka, which were the embodiment of the answer to their need, and they became the gods, and they began to vibrate back to the Ku the things that they needed, and thus became the relationship between the mortal and the divine. So,
man, like that's actually very simply put, but very deep. So it's sort of like there's an artist. What was his name? He did a song called "Interview with a Vampire." For the life of me, I can't remember his name, but Ras Kass, and he talks about, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know, did man create God, or did God create man? And this is sort of in line with that idea. Did we create our gods through our imagination, or did our gods create us as physical manifestations? And the answer to that question is kind of deep. Okay? I would say the answer to that question is yes.
Exactly. So it gets complex, but it speaks to the relationship between ourselves and that which exists outside of ourselves. So that which we call the universal power, or universal force, or the source, or the all, or God, or whatever. And that's always fascinated me, is that relationship that we as beings, mortal beings, have with that ultimate source. So, you know, that's what I want to talk about today, is to explore the Ku and the Ka and our relationship, and how can we utilize that relationship? How does it benefit us? So on and so forth.
I've just had a lot of stuff go through my mind conceptually, because it's I'm seeing, you know, the whole yin yang thing. It's both, you know what I mean? Even though it's not like masculine, feminine thing, even though it kind of is, it's also like a call and response type deal. But it's you still, in a way, because what's out there is still within you, because we are all it, and it is all we. Like it's
hard to conceptualize with a lot of people, and that's the point, is that there is no trying to find separation between the Ku and the Ka will be the equivalent of you trying to find separation between a liver cell and you.
Because there isn't any there is no such thing as separation.
Right. If you
guys don't believe us, do your Googles. You can ask Jeeves. You can go to higherthoughtent.com and ask Thought, and he'll have an opinion. So, but like, there is no such thing as separation.
Right.
At all. Even if, we can see, I may be separate from this camera visually because there is an alleged space between us, but that space is actually not empty.
Right. So, and that's really what I wanted to talk about, was like, okay, so what is the point? We define what it is. What is the Ku and the Ka? It's this relationship between the mortal and the divine. So what's it for? Okay, why do we have it? And I think, at least in my model, the way that I
see this relationship is symbiotic. And I wouldn't say it goes deeper than that. It's the all, which is an all-knowing, all-encompassing being. The one thing that it cannot have is limitation. It cannot exist in a limited form. So in order to exist in a limited form, it has to divide itself or to become smaller or create something smaller in which to inhabit. And to experience limitation, it must inhabit that smaller form. So in my model, the Ku are the manifestation of the Ka seeking limitation and the experience of limitation. So
it's the Ka saying, I wonder what it would be like if I couldn't.
It would be the equivalent of you having, you being ridiculously wealthy, having enough money to buy and do anything you wanted at all times, and you wanted to know what it felt like to go and buy milk at a store, because you never have. We always want that which we don't have, so we crave the things that we are lacking. So a all-encompassing being would crave limitation because it can't experience that knowing all and being all.
But I feel like at the same time, that being realizes in its seeking of limitation that limits only exist if we create them.
Exactly.
Which a self-created limit can be overcome. So
which makes the cycle, and that's why when I talked to you before about that cycle of life, birth, life, death, and rebirth. It really is the natural cycle of the universe and the cycle of the relationship between the Ku and the Ka. The Ka seeks limitation, so creates a more limited life form. That more limited life form experiences life, birth, life, and then death, and then returns to the Ka with new information and the experience intact. So when I talk to people about that there is no death, that's what I mean, is that spark of the divine, that essence of the Ka, which exists in all of us, goes through a life, experiences it, and then returns to the Ka to reabsorb that information.
So, in essence, what you are saying is that the all is experimenting on itself by experiencing itself, and through that it is learning about itself, even though it technically knows all.
It knows all except limitation.
Thus
must learn limitation.
Through that, it's learning limitation within the time-space thing, because that creates, those are just borders and limits. Man, this is a mind bender. I'm trying to put this in a sentence for people. I'm trying to higher thought this into a sentence, and it's.
Well, think of it from this perspective. It's a being that exists at that level would exist outside of time. There's no
you can't
time.
There is no time. Time exists within a limited realm which time controls, yet you operate outside of time because outside of time exists. Therefore, time in a way is irrelevant unless you decide to use it as a tool, because that is more or less what it.
Well, time would have to come from the Ka. The Ka would have to have created the concept of time, which is a lower dimension than the Ka vibrates on, and create that lower dimension in order to limit how long something can exist. Otherwise, it's forever.
Well, that's
it always has been. Right. So you create a limit on existence. You create a limit called time. You create a limited area called space, and then you create a limited being inside that in order to experience limitation.
Yeah, because that being has to say, oh, okay, this, okay, and then that, but to get that, oh, okay, wait a minute, let me go back, let me do this.
Right.
Before that, but because it's outside of time space, it can do that. It can almost kind of go back. It's like if you're trying to, if the Ka is trying to write a report on itself.
Well, it has to experience things that it does not know.
And since all that exists is known, it had to create something new that didn't exist and then experience it through the lack of knowing. So in my model, the way this works is that the spark of the divine that inhabits each of us and all life forms is born into the world of limitation and forgets everything that came before. So the connection is severed. Thus, the limitation is that connection to all is not so much, I won't say severed, but limited. There is a instinctual knowledge, a sixth sense, so to speak, of how we still feel the vibrations of and interact with that which we call the Ka. So as the Ku, we are the limited form of the Ka that is experiencing space-time, that is experiencing life, that is experiencing being a male or female or a human or something else or being a rock. You know what I mean? It's experiencing existence in various ways in a limited form without the knowledge of all. But we have an understanding, which is why we always crave that, going back to that state of knowledge, which we seek it out in various paths, and thus the various philosophies of the world exist. But we seek to know more. And as we gain information and experience and understanding of what existence is in its limited form, we gain a way of understanding that is different from the Ka.
So then this Ka must also create an unlimited amount of these experiences that also experiences themselves.
Well, there's no limit to because of the limitless nature of the Ka. We seek that limitless existence. Thus, we create. Thus, the creative instinct. We, for instance, one of the philosophies, the scientific philosophies that I follow is the simulation theory, that everything that we experience is a simulation, that we live in a higher dimension and we are experiencing this universe as a simulation.
Right, because there's levels to it, but it's just, so to that, I'm going to interrupt, but to that, it would just be a matter of what level is your perception from.
Right, at the time in which you're experiencing. But anyone who's ever been in VR experiences a completely different reality, which we created. And as we get better at it and VR becomes more realistic, we will actually be able to experience a completely new life inside a virtual space that we've created.
You know, it's funny. I saw two things, and I made a video maybe 2 days ago when I posted it, and it kind of talked similarly about this. And it was about like how we are born into this life and we can remember, we have our childhood memories, and from there we go on until, you know, we age and we get to the end of our lives, right? And we don't, throughout that limited time space, we don't remember our birth. We don't remember, we don't remember the very beginning, and we don't know the very end. And within the realm of our experience, hypothetically,
I have an exception. There's a video that I watched a while ago about a young man who was about 2 or 3 years old, and he started having these night terrors, and his parents were freaking out about it, and they were like, you know, what's going on? He said he keeps having these nightmares and we don't know what to do. And so when he got to about 3 years old, they started asking him, okay, what are you experiencing? And he's like, I'm on fire. And they're like, you know, are you in your room? He's like, no, I'm in the cockpit and I'm on fire. And he's like, they kept asking him, and he started giving out details. He's like, he's a fighter pilot. He was a fighter pilot. He was shot down by the Japanese, and he died in his Corsair. And they started, the older he got, he was able to give more and more detail. And this kid started, you know, his dad didn't believe him at first, but his mom did. He started naming off people he served with, the ship he was on, the type of plane he flew, what missions he was on.
So it's almost like how, you know, when they say they do the past life regressions, right, and whatnot, and And that kind of ties into why I say hypothetically, because that's on a level of perception. Saying we can't remember the very beginning and we don't know the ends is perceptual for
this existence.
Either this existence or this level of awareness.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even though we still have access to those higher levels of awareness, some people easier than others. It's very perceptual, but it kind of turns life into a bunless burger, as I put it.
A bunless burger, I like that.
It's a bunless burger. But then there's also like this idea that, you know, when people bring up the higher self, right? You're talking to this higher version or this higher, you know, being, which is actually still you.
Right.
You are talking to yourself. So what happens now when you are thinking and viewing the world from the perception of now that higher self versus this lower level of thinking? Like so then I have a dangerous question, which you don't have to answer.
I like dangerous questions. Best kind.
So then where is the line for where does the coup end and the ka begins?
Okay, well, let's start with the word line. We like boxes as humans, nice, neat, delineated spaces.
Just so you know, I love that you're answering this dangerous question. I would love to answer it, but I love that somebody else will also answer the question. But go ahead.
I dig that.
Yeah.
But we like these boxes, but nothing is as simple as being compartmentalized. Like you said, we sit in this room and we act like there's separation between us, yet we're connected by the air that we're breathing. We're connected by the light and radiation that our bodies are giving off, the heat they're giving off, our bioelectric field, or the magnetic field of the earth is coursing through and around us. Radio waves and all kinds of light are flowing through us. Neutrinos are flowing through us constantly. And we have the perception that we're solid beings that are separate from one another, but that's not the reality from a scientific or an esoteric point of view. We are connected. Thus, the idea of separation between ourselves and our higher self, or our higher self and the ka, is an illusion. It's an illusion that we agree to in order to have the experience of limitation. So even when we're talking about our various lives, we live multiple lives, at least in my model, and those multiple lives are separated by birth and death, because if you remember the previous life, then you now cannot experience a new life without the baggage of the old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're dragging along everything that happened, those previous experiences, and thus you cannot have a new experience, because it's all just building off of it's going to be influenced by the experiences of the previous life. So I don't know that the slate is necessarily wiped clean. We still have that connection through our higher self, which we're still connected to, which is still connected to the all, or to a ka. So we still have access to it. Thus intuition, thus the way that we just simply know things without necessarily knowing how we know them, that feeling, that vibe you get, it comes from that connection to those higher versions of ourselves and the higher incarnations of ourselves. So there is no separation, but the limitation is a feature designed to give us new experience, to allow us new experiences. So there is no line.
Thank you. I agree.
There we go.
I agree.
It's dangerous when we're on the same page, man. It's dangerous when we're on the same page.
It is, and I say that's a dangerous question because, and this is not to put anybody or any belief on the spot or to discount any of it, but I do feel like there are a lot of belief systems out there that even though they might not say it explicitly, it's kind of inferred, or it gives the impression, and a lot of times by the way that it's professed, that there is a separation.
Well, the separation that's part of the design.
Yeah, the separation, or that you need something else or something or someone else to connect you to to make that connection from the Ku and the Ka. Like you need a middleman,
Well, yeah.
or a middle, or some kind of conduit to.
I'm trying to get paid, bro. What you trying to?
I mean, hey,
how am I going to get paid if you don't pay me for me to connect you to God? I'm like a telephone operator, man.
Yeah, but
I need that cheddar.
So then, if there is no separation, there is no line.
No.
And this Ka is also all the Kus, and all the Kus are a part of this Ka. Does that then mean that I am you, and you are me, and so are all of you watching us?
Yeah.
Also us. At the same time.
Yes.
So, that being said, if you, as a Ku, because we'll say a Ku, will be multiple, right? Ka being somewhat singular,
yeah,
all encompassing. You, as a Ku energy, said, "Hey, I want somebody to do a podcast with," and then me, as a Ku, also said, "Hey, I want somebody to do a podcast with." And those two Kus were on the same wavelength of thinking of what we wanted to do that podcast about before we had met each other. Did we manifest each other?
Yes.
So I manifested you and you manifested me.
Yes.
And here we are doing this podcast because we both wanted to do this, and our higher selves was like, I know just a person. Hey,
we attract
other
that
higher
which we
self.
desire.
Yeah. Hey, let's do it. 3D. Cool.
Exactly.
Meet you there.
Exactly. And that's, to be honest, that's really, again, we talk about that whole idea or concept of separation. That's an illusion. When we talk about the principle of vibration, why does the vibration work? What is it vibrating? It's vibrating the all. It's vibrating out into the Ka, and the Ka reverberates that vibration back to the Ku. That same relationship, governed by the principle of vibration, that which the Ku vibrates goes to the Ka vibrates in response, and manifestation happens at that limited 3D level. So it's still, again, I always go back to the Kabbalion because the principles of the Kabbalion always apply, no matter which philosophy or which model you're looking at, they always apply. The principle of mentalism, all things that exist are encompassed within the mind of the all. The Ka is the all. Thus, everything within that is mental material that vibrates into manifestation on the Ku's level. So that which we desire, we vibrate out to the Ka. The Ka responds in reciprocal vibration. Manifestation happens at the vibrational level of the Ka. I mean the Ku. Sorry.
So, I have a I have a challenge, and I have a challenge that I have for the people. But I'm not going to give it to you until the end of the show. I have a challenge that I just thought about. I think it would be really cool.
Okay.
And but I'm not going to give it to you guys until the end of the show. Don't try to scroll ahead and get all quick and fast on me. No. But I'm gonna give it to you by the end of the show.
I got you.
And it's going to be interesting. I'm very curious at the responses that we will get from it.
I'm interested in hearing that. So,
because I'm going to do it too. I mean, I'm going to. Well, I'll get into it.
We'll get to it. Okay.
We'll get to it.
So,
yeah.
I guess the question is, knowing this, the relationship between the Ku and the Ka, how does it benefit us?
I feel like that is a question with unlimited answers.
Yeah.
It's a question with unlimited answers because...
But we got to get practical.
But we choose how... I think we choose how it benefits us, how we want it to benefit us. It becomes a choice again.
Well, then that asks the question then, can it be harmful?
If your choices are to be to your detriment, sure. I don't think that it's going to. I don't think it's going to pick sides.
Because my question has always been like, since I was younger, why is there evil in the world? Why do bad things happen?
How do you know what good is?
Well, I mean, things like getting your your stubbing your toe or getting this, your finger slammed on the door is better than not. So you can
in the moment, the feeling doesn't feel good,
right?
But say you stubbing your toe caused you to leave out a little bit later, and you missed something that could have been worse.
True. I see that as potential as well. But there are some things that are just arbitrarily just sucky. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that just happen. And I don't mean like, illnesses that you can't prevent or natural disasters that you can't prevent. I mean, those are things that happen, because of the natural world we live in. And it is constantly in a state of change. And so stuff happens. Landslides happen, snowstorms happen, wildfires happen. I'm talking about things like how we, like when somebody robs somebody else, and shoots up a store clerk, or why do people contribute? Why do people who are also coup contribute to the suffering of others? That's always been my question. And in relationship to the coup and the Ka, that's always been like, okay, well then, what's causing all of this evil? Because I don't believe evil manifests in nature. I believe evil is a man-made concept. We create evil by choosing to do harm and do wrong.
There's that choice,
right? So like an animal, a lion eating a gazelle is not evil. That's the natural cycle. But like somebody deciding I'm going to come up in your house and kill your family or whatever else, that type of stuff is a decision.
It's a decision, but then is that a natural human decision?
No. Because if you take a human that is just does not have a defect of some kind, just a base level human, and they live out in this world without having massive trauma, generally speaking, they're not going to do horrible things. The potential is there, but most people, I'd say 99% of the population doesn't do horrible things. We do bad things every now and again, but we don't do horrible things. So the horrors of the world that I think are caused by evil are they come from somewhere else. There's a decision that gets made at some point.
Yeah, but to that person, they might not see it as evil. To them, it's something that might be necessary, something that they believe that they are called to do. Some of them feel like, this is a part of what has to happen. I'm not saying that they're right.
I got you.
Not saying that they're right, but I think then it comes down to belief at that point, and also comes down to your perception of what good and evil is. To one person, going and mowing down a whole bunch of people isn't evil. Is it? Hey man, that's pretty dark. That's you're there, man. You're kind of there. Doesn't really get much, Well,
this is where we're gonna get into some unpleasantness and some darker stuff, because here's the thing: the Ka encompasses all.
And there we go. That's what I wanted to get to.
And if that's the case, then that means the darker concepts, the darker things in the world are also a part of the Ka, which means they are invariably a part of us.
Which is...
So the coup reflects the Ka and vice versa. So...
I mean, the Ka probably asked, am I good or am I evil? Or am I both? But since the Ka is the all... like I said, I don't think it's choosing sides.
It just
is. It's not like, hey, I'm only going to do this because it's good, or hey, I'm only going to do this because it's bad. It's just a respondent energy. There's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a call response, just the same as. And I had to keep bringing it up with the yin yang symbol, because to me it's a very simple, but it's a symbol that explains a lot. It's simple, but it explains a lot. So like even on the white side of it, there's a black dot. Yeah. On the black side of it, there's a white dot.
Yeah.
However you want to separate that, there's always going to be a little good in the darkness, and there's always going to be a little bad in the light. You can be blinded by the light, and you can also be healed by the darkness. Welcome to halftime. Give yourself and your mind a moment to rest. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. And slow, deep breath out through the mouth. Focus only on your breath. Take another slow, deep breath in. And another slow, deep breath out. Feel better? Good. We want to take this moment to thank you for listening and watching this podcast. We hope you take something positive from it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment your light bulb moments. We also want to thank one of our biggest sponsors that make this podcast possible, Podcastic. Check them out at podcasticlife.com. Back to the wisdom.
I guess that's my that was part of the difficult part of my understanding of the Ku and the Ka relationship, is that there cannot be a darkness in the Ku without there also being a similar, more all-encompassing darkness in the Ka. That there has to be by pure logic, there has to be a relationship, a correlation between both. If we are experiencing our existence within the all, within the Ka, then the Ka has to, in part, be darkness.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where we also get into the idea of seeing that darkness within ourselves and accepting it. The parts that we can accept, because I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, accept the very evil part of you that's going to do bad things to every single person. If you can, if you can work through, your shadow, do that shadow work. That's not something that you should skip over. If you ignore that, we'll probably get into that in a different show. But if you ignore that, that's when things can get very detrimental, and that's where you get dis-ease and a lot of other things that just won't go too well, for yourself or probably for other people, because now you start to really manifest and work in that arena, and that it's not so great.
Well, I live by the philosophy of creation or entropy. And I think the greatest gift that I was given, and I think the greatest gift that we as the Ku have been given, is the idea that we choose. And that choice is a power that we have. You can choose to be light or dark. You can choose to create or destroy. Our decisions about what we choose to become and how we choose to vibrate literally creates the reality around ourselves. And if we, that's even from a quantum physics perspective, we literally choose the positive or negative charge, or the state of the particle or its location as it's, manifesting in the physical world. Thus, we, by choice, choose what the world is. And I think that's sort of the scary part when you're talking about, if we recognize that connection between our higher self and this macroscopic self that we're living, we have to be responsible with knowing that these things that we know and that we're connected to are our choice. We are choosing this existence. We are choosing the way it manifests, and that we're choosing either light or darkness. And so there's no, that's just the way I am. No, it's not. It's how you've chosen to be. And having that power is scary.
But what if I don't want to choose? That sounds like a lot of work. I gotta, that means I have to pay attention to every single decision.
Not choosing is a choice. Not choosing is a choice.
Well, then I'm going to choose not to choose and not choose to choose.
If you choose to not choose, then you are simply saying, I will allow the shadow of myself to control my existence.
Well, that's less work. But I don't want the shadow to choose for me.
A choice is made one way or another.
Where is the space of not choosing?
Not choosing is a choice.
Well, where is the no choice zone?
The no choice zone is when you say that life is random and stuff just happens.
That's terrifying.
Exactly. When people say, "Oh, I don't want to deal with the responsibility of that," what's more terrifying, that you get to choose
as the coup, what your existence is, or that life is just random and anything could possibly happen from moment to moment.
So what you telling me is
Choose your terror.
it's either make a choice or Russian roulette.
Yep. With a billion choices that could potentially happen.
I don't want to play this game anymore.
The game is already in play. You're already on the board, is what I'm saying.
I don't want to play this game anymore. Time out, reset, start over. I don't how do we where do we go from here?
Well, and that's the thing.
Because then I have to deal with the choices that I'm making or not making, and everybody else's choices that they're making or not making, and put me in their little random life.
It's not, to be honest, it's not that deep. It's this moment.
The now.
The now. That's the only thing you can truly make a decision about is right now. Because what's been, our lower selves do not have access to. What is to come, our lower selves have some influence over, but are blind to. So it's a matter of right now, I can choose to be a creator or a destroyer. Right now, I can choose to seek the path of enlightenment or ignorance. Right now is what I have control over. And if you focus on that, then all the choices, they sort of compile. As you choose the light more often than you choose the dark, then your life becomes, as a consequence, a vibration of light. If you choose darkness more often than you choose light, if you choose suffering more often than you choose joy, then your life becomes a compilation of pain and suffering.
So let me just ask this for clarification. Just to reiterate, if I am living in darkness, is that space solely reserved for what we would consider bad or unpleasant?
That's why I try to be more specific in the way I describe it. When I say entropy or creation, that's what I mean. There are things that destroy ourselves, and there are things that enlighten ourselves and grow us. Now, when we're talking about darkness, that can encompass a lot of things. Okay. Now, is there a place for anger? Yeah. There's righteous anger. There are times when you should be angry because something horrible happened and you should be angry about it. Or someone tried to take advantage of you and you should be angry about it. You need to defend yourself or others. You should be angry about it. And then there are times when anger is just, the easiest choice because, we're afraid of something else. We're afraid of facing something else, so we turn to anger instead. So it's not there's no blanket, right or wrong. There's simply, in the moment, what decision did you make about what this is? Because remember, you decide what your reality is from moment to moment. You literally interpret the world by everything you see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. Everything that comes into your senses, you literally, through your neural net, filter and decide what it is. You make a choice.
I'm very glad you said that S word, senses.
Exactly.
And I'm glad that you said senses because those are the things that we use to both interpret the world around us and also construct the world around us. And what I mean by that is, what senses there are senses that we use to think our thoughts. There are senses that we use to feel our feelings. These are all inputs that we have, right? We have these inputs, outputs, right?
Yeah.
So we have our senses are what are analyzing these inputs that we are getting, or the outputs that we have, I guess, that are coming from within. And so now when we analyze that, we compile it into one single thing and say, all right, boop, this is the manifestation that will come through.
Right.
Probably a very wild explanation for that. It probably went for
No, I got it.
But yeah, I just feel like that's super important. And I'm also, one of the things that I teach with, meditation is you can single those senses out.
Oh, yeah.
You can single those senses out and create your own system for how they should work.
Yeah.
And automate them.
Well, and that's the beauty of it is, again, you decide. what you focus on, what you give energy to, is how your reality manifests. And you can do that through meditation by focusing your senses on one particular sensation, or you can devoid yourself of all of them, through sensory deprivation, and in order to go inward. But ultimately, it's your choice as to how you experience this world, and limiting your senses in various ways can give you a different experience and a different perspective on things.
Yeah, and so, but that also wholly describes the relationship between the ku and the ka with that call response. It's
exactly
signal out, signal back. It's not a long distance call.
No.
And I think that's where things get kind of confused, where people feel like that connection between the ku and the ka, however they want to describe it or label it, it's not a long distance call.
Well, we've been indoctrinated into this belief system that we are separate from one another, and therefore also separate from the divine. And thus, when you create that idea and that belief, it begs for a mediator. It begs for someone to come in and say, let me get between, be that bridge between you and the divine, because I have a special, unique connection that makes me different from everyone else, and thus you should pay me like a lot of money.
I'm not gonna pay you for that's your connection with that. I don't need your connection with that to make the call is coming from inside the house.
Well,
as they say, it's
yeah. Well, if you look at the Apocrypha, it literally takes out certain books in the Bible that specifically talk about the gospel. In the Gospel of Jesus, it talks about that there is no separation between the Creator and man. That where three gather in my name, there shall I be. Turn over a rock and you will find me. There is no place you have to go. It eliminates the need for a building or a person to mediate. It's simply, if you believe and you gather in the name of this Ka and seek to commune with this Ka, then the Ka is present because it's already there. There is no one that has to come between the two of you and interpret and make it so for you. You simply already have a connection. But in order to organize people and create a society and get people to do what you tell them to do, you have to make them believe. How do you sever a connection between the ku and the ka? The ka has to choose to sever it.
But it never will.
I'm sorry, the ku has to choose to sever it.
So, because the ka won't separate it. Won't sever it. But the ku, basically, you have to say, well, you know what? I'm going to hang up on the ka every time I try to connect to it. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, I'm going to connect to ka. And then you say, I can't do it. It's not working. But you just hung up on it. Mm-hmm. You just hung the phone up right in Ka's face.
Or just took the phone out of your house.
Yeah.
A lot of people take the phone out of their house. They can't even get a call. They got to go down to the phone booth, and have somebody else make a call for them because they can't connect on their own.
It's interesting because I feel like we all, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, have had those moments where we're like, oh, wow, okay, that was kind of trippy. That I made that phone call without even dialing.
Yeah.
And then got an answer immediately.
Well,
and it's like, yeah, or even within time, you're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. That was weird. Did that exist? Did that happen? Did that work? How do I do it?
Coincidence.
No, it was definitely a coinky dink.
Yeah, just, the greatest superpower humans have ever created is rationalization. To take something that is divine and supernatural and compartmentalize it down into something natural in order that doesn't scare them.
But I think that it's cool to be supernatural.
But most people are afraid of that.
Is that not though? It's like when you're a kid and you're watching Superman and you're watching, like who doesn't say, "Oh man, I wish I could fly." You know what I mean? I wonder what it would be like if it would be cool to have Superman's abilities. Not that I want Superman's abilities. I just want to say that. But it's like, man, that would be cool. But then you realize like, oh wait, I have Superman. I did a Superman ability.
But see, then again, when you do that, you got to remember the greatest and real superhero, because Superman is not a superhero.
Wow.
Shots fired.
Shade.
Shots
Okay.
fired.
Okay.
Shots fired. Spider-Man is a superhero because if you shoot him with a gun, he'll die. He's vulnerable. He takes actual risks. Someone who does not actually take risks is not a hero. And his motto is, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what people are afraid of. the responsibility that comes along with the understanding that that supernatural being that you actually are is responsible for your life and the actual manifestation of reality around you. That terror you felt when you were like, I gotta make all these choices, that is an existential terror for people when they realize how powerful we actually are.
And so that drives me to question if the group of people that decided, this isn't particular to any religion belief system, that will decide for a particular belief system that, hey, this is how we're going to profess this idea, right? These are all people who have the same specific fear. And not only, or understand the power that we each individually hold, and they want to centralize it.
Well, and usually if you find in most organizations of that nature, it usually comes down to a small group of people or one person that holds all the actual power. I tried to explain to a Christian friend of mine that Christians do magic the same way pagans do. And they were like, no, we don't. It's written, you're not supposed to do that. And I was like, you ever go to a church when the choir is on flex and people are experiencing the Holy Spirit and people are having transcendent experiences in church, and that euphoric feeling you get when the band is going and the choir is going, and you are really feeling the Spirit of God moving through that place. And they're like, yeah, I've had that. I'm like, that's magic. That's what pagans do every day. That is what we are, but we don't do it because there's one person up in a pulpit telling us. We understand that it comes from us the same way all of that energy in that room comes through you. There is no one person who's doing it. It's all of you.
We're literally, so basically we're just talking about the movement of energy.
Yeah, it's just a matter of labels. And that's the thing that people don't understand, because they're like, you're bashing. I'm like, I'm not bashing. What I'm saying is own your responsibility. Pastor Keith Butler at Word of Faith Christian Center used to say all the time, don't believe me. Go read the Bible for yourself. Have your own relationship with your Creator, because it's your responsibility to have your relationship with your Creator. You are the Ku. It's your responsibility to have a relationship with your Ka. And nobody can tell you how that's supposed to manifest. And if you understand that, and you understand that it's your responsibility, then it changes the dynamic. There's no longer someone who's going to be able to tell you how you're supposed to worship or how you're supposed to experience that. And worship just means
that's between that Ku and the Ka.
Exactly. That's literally what worship is. It's not bowing down and bending the knee and you're so great and I think you're cool. It's mostly about, do you have a relationship between your Ku and your Ka? Do you nurture that relationship? Do you have that connection? And make sure that energetic connection that you're making is both maintained and flourishing. That's all that means. That's all worship means, is creating and maintaining a connection so that you can have insight that is supernatural, so that you can have protection that is supernatural, so that when you need information or you need protection and you call upon your Ka, then the Ka reverberates that vibration, that call. And that's all it is. The problem is, we believe in that separation, and therefore we literally cut off our power because we cut off our connection to that higher self and to the Ka. So if when you're talking about which path to follow, I tell people, I don't care what path you follow, as long as it creates a pathway that leads you closer to the divine, closer to your Ka. And that relationship is the only one that actually matters.
Yeah, and I think because I think that even goes back to kind of what we were talking about in the beginning. I think you brought it up, is just, it's, how would I phrase that? All the Kus have their own experience, right? Mm-hmm. They all have their own experience. And like we were talking about it, the car experiencing itself in all these different ways, and it's almost like it's almost the car. You could think of the car as like a mad scientist.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, think of the car as like a mad scientist, and it's in this lab, in its creative lab, in its Dexter's laboratory, and it's creating life. Right, and it's creating life to resemble itself, so it can learn about itself. What am I? Who am I? Answering all of the questions. Even though it is the answer to all of the questions, it's finding out, hey, okay, I am both the question and the answer.
Right.
And so, okay, let me have these experiences to put limits so that I can now understand, and this is how I get the answers.
Right.
And who knows? With so many unlimited ways to do this, each coup can have its own way of finding these answers. So it's okay if one coup veers off this way and one coup follows its compass and it says to go that way.
Right.
Let that coup follow that compass without judging it.
Well,
because it has to follow that path. Let it follow that path.
But my book said that we're supposed to do it this way.
Okay.
The book that was written by this guy, he told me. So, and okay.
That was his compass. Not to say that you can't use his compass.
But I don't want the responsibility for picking a direction.
Well, then you're going to be in that other club with the rest of those. I can't help you there.
Well, we're back to your question. Basically, why would someone choose not to choose? Because it's easier to say someone else is responsible for my choices. But to speak to to the idea of the relationships, I tell people all the time, one of the differences between my father and I love my father to death. Okay, my father was my everything. But one of the differences that between the way we saw ourselves, and we had this discussion, and I understand because of the way he grew up, why he felt this way. He saw himself first as a black man. And he said, that's first you're a black man, and then you're a man, and then you're an American, and so on and so forth. And I said, that's the difference between the way we see ourselves. I see myself as a divine spark first. That's the first thing. I am an aspect of a being that is infinite. And then
think about how you start off that sentence.
Right. And then secondly, I am a human. And then thirdly, I'm a male. And then by about fourth or fifth, I'm a black male. And those are constructs that society has placed upon us. They're not real. They're just labels that we decided to put on ourselves. But they're not real. They're simply, our way of trying to understand the world. But
those labels and what we name things are very important. I say that because I love words.
Yeah.
I'm a wordsmith, if you don't know. I love words, and I also love learning the meaning of words and where they come from. So basically the etymology of words, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'm curious as to like how they're put together. And one of the things I was thinking about actually recently was we say I am a human being a lot, mm-hmm. right? And I'm beginning to think, I'm like, okay, we put human first before being. Mm-hmm. What if we're a being before we are human?
Well,
are we a being that has manifested itself as humans, or are we a spirit being human, or how does that correlate?
That's complex, and that's getting deep into the definition of what we are. And you're right. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, we are energetic matrix that is inhabiting
this avatar.
Okay, in this manifestation, in this lower vibrational manifestation. So yeah, I mean, when I speak to this incarnation, that's what I'm speaking to when I say I'm a human being. But again, words are limiting. We try to define things because we don't have words. We don't have ways of defining things that truly encompass them. And people say, well, no, you can describe it. I'm like, yeah, if you can try, but describe that feeling you felt the moment you saw that person who may or may not have become your significant other, but the first time you actually felt true
love and desire. I mean, not the words, but the emotion and the experience of having that, looking at someone and longing. You know, there are no words to really encompass that. It's so complex and so involved. So we try to define them with words like love and desire and passion and all that, but they don't truly define the experience.
Language itself is
limiting. Exactly.
The minute you call something a thing, you have now limited it to just that
thing. And I think we do that in order to try to understand. The problem we have is that our ideas and concepts don't encompass the vastness of what existence is or what the Ka is. When we say God, we have a very distinct idea of what that, means for us individually. We anthropomorphize. Some people see a literal, old white guy with a long white beard in the clouds. Some, see, their particular deity. For me, I try to dismiss the limitations of those ideas and concepts. The Ka, for me, is an entity that is so beyond human that I speak to it as an it. It is something beyond my understanding. It is not a he or a she. It is both. It is not a,
Because if it's only one thing, then it can't be another. But
exactly.
If it's all things, then how can it only be one? How can it only be one side of, or one piece of, or because it's all of?
Exactly.
It's kind of like if the entire universe was, or the world was, candy, there would just be, everything would just be Mike and Ike Skittles and maybe I would be a Snicker. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I love your analogy. Right? I love that. That's cool. He's like, I was going straight to candy.
Yeah, but we limit it to just candy. And we got our Sour Patch Kids and our watermelon. Like,
do we need to go to the penny candy store after this?
Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed. But but then now everything is just candy, and that's all existence is candy. But since it's outside of candy, and that's all we know how the language of is candy, and
we are the limited ones,
then
not
we are
the
limited
universe.
Ones. So now you have to think, okay, then candy is probably thinking, well, what's outside of the candy world? Is there an outside of the? Yeah, there is an outside of the candy world. Something made the candy,
and that I guess that's the responsibility we have is to understand our limitations and understand that there is more than we can perceive. There's more to existence than we have been told and taught, and to strive to, at least in each incarnation, further our understanding. Further our understanding of what existence is and how we as the Ku can make that connection to the Ka. If we understand that it exists and we understand that there are no barriers to it, that there is no space between, then that changes the whole dynamic of how we incarnate. If I know that there is a direct connection to the Ka, I don't have to go to anybody else to get my information. I don't have to go to anyone else to seek my protection. I don't have to go to anyone else to ask for those things that I desire. I'm already connected to it. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And I think we're coming up on time, and that
you have a thing.
Yeah, thanks, truck. That kind of runs right into my challenge that I wanted to give people, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
Pick an amount of time, or you could do it indefinitely. But from this point, talk to everyone or everything, your choice, up to you, as if they are you and you are talking to yourself.
Looking at everyone as a part of yourself, that would inspire empathy for everything.
Like if you, as I'm talking to you now, it would be as if You know how you talk to yourself in third person? Mm-hmm. Like, you are now, or everything else that exists is now that third person.
Okay, you trying to go deep on that one. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That is the higher thought challenge. So do that. I'm not saying it has to be continuous. You can pick your moments, your times. I mean, we're going to forget. We're going to go through our days and not think about it. But do that, and then let us know what light bulb moments you have. I think that would be pretty cool. I'm pretty sure you will have some. You know what? I guarantee you will have some light bulb moments if you do it for long enough.
Oh, I dig that. Can I get a challenge too? I got a challenge too.
Yeah.
Okay. My challenge is, as you're doing this challenge and you're looking at everybody else as an aspect of you, ask the question, what are they trying to teach me?
I love that. I love that. Because I go into a lot of experiences just personally, just, all right, what am I learning from this?
Yeah.
What am I learning from today? Like, sometimes I'll wake up and be like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to learn today. Like, what experience am I going to get that's going to teach me something today? And I'll just go about my day like that, waiting for the learning experience. Or just, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I actually learned a lot today.
There you go.
You know, so, but yes, I love that. I love that. The double challenge. And that's how you'll get.
Send them away with something. I like it.
Yeah. So that's our time. Any parting words?
I do. When you're dealing with your relationship between you as the Ku and your relationship with the Ka, don't ever let anyone or anything come between you and that relationship. No barriers.
I would say, as I always say, just think higher and follow the light bulbs. I think we've got enough deeper wisdom for today, and that double challenge is going to be interesting. So, do your challenge. Let us know what light bulb moments you have. You can either drop them in the comments or hit us up directly. However you want to do it, it's up to you. I'll let you make that choice. But yeah, that's all. I think that's all we have, and this is your lessons in deeper wisdom.
Deeper wisdom. Peace.
Well.